blame you. We were just talking about how today it's the 11th, and that means it's Amazon Prime Day. And
Yeah.
Emily and I last minute decided to change the topic we were talking about today. We're going to talk about clothes.
Yeah. Yeah. Clothes are tough, especially in the summer.
Yeah,
Summer's
for
a
sure.
hard time.
It is a hard time. Shorts and lighter stuff and different materials, right? Kind of less,
Mhm.
it feels like less hiding.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then there's the side of things, Amazon Prime Day, of like
Mhm.
kind of like compulsively shopping. There's so much that we could talk about with clothes and shopping and all of the things. We were both just saying we have Amazon carts with clothes in them. And we're going to look at the day discount. So it's hard.
Way too many clothes. But yeah, there's a lot wrapped up in clothes, whether it's how you feel in clothes, how they look on your body, how you think they look on your body. Like you were saying,
How you
compulsive
want them to look
shopping.
on your body.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's so much wrapped up in clothing and
Mhm.
a lot of anxiety, a lot of shame. It's hard.
It is really hard. How, over the years for you, as you've gone through different seasons of your life and different seasons of your own recovery, how have you maybe personally coped with the saying goodbye to clothes, the grieving of clothes, the purchasing of new clothes, maybe playing with clothes and style and expression or comfort or any of those things? What's that process been like for you? Because I feel like it's different for everyone.
Yeah, yeah. That's actually, I really like that you brought that up. Because that's been it's been a complicated relationship for me because I love clothes, I love shopping, I love fashion and like putting outfits together. Like
You
that's
are
something
usually very like stylish. I'm like, and hip. How old am I? I'm not sure, but trendy.
I try. Like, what are the kids wearing? What are the Gen Zs wearing?
Right. I'm like, I don't know.
Um,
I wear yoga
yeah,
pants all the time.
but that is something like ever since I was in like middle school, like I've loved
Mm,
fashion and expressing myself in that way. That definitely gets really complicated when you're in the midst of an eating disorder. I
mm,
can
mhm.
remember that that was a huge trigger for me. Like I have this very vivid memory of putting this shirt on in my room when I was like 14 years old and just
Mm,
like breaking down. And like to this day, like I still remember it. Like I remember what the shirt looked like I remember where I was. Like
mm,
it was just like this pivotal moment. And I feel like that was kind of the moment where things changed for me. Like it was like
mm,
I feel like I have to dress a certain way, whether I like it or not. If this is the thing that's trendy, that's the thing that I have to wear. And that's I think the first time that I really became aware of sizes as well.
mm,
Like it was like not
mhm.
only do I have to wear this trendy thing, but I have to wear it in the smallest size that it comes
Mhm.
in or like the smallest size that I can fit in. And if I can't fit in that, that's my problem.
Mm,
Like
mhm.
I
It's your
have to
fault.
change myself to be
Yeah.
able to fit in this. So that got really complicated and it ended up in a place where I was kind of all over the place, like trying to find who I was and like what felt right for me. But I was also just really, really uncomfortable. I was really
Mm,
embarrassed. I was full of shame and just really blaming myself. This is supposed to be easy, right? Like I'm just
uh-huh.
supposed to be able to have this body that the media and diet culture and like all the magazines and stuff that I would read,
The
like
magazines back in the day, yeah.
oh my God, like 17, Cosmo, Teen Vogue, like all of it. Like I was like obsessed with it. But
Oh,
and
I
it
was
was
there.
very
Yeah.
much like, oh, like that's what I have to look like. And if I don't, my fault.
Yeah. At the time, did it feel like it? And I think you said this or alluded to this. Did it feel like wearing the thing and fitting in the thing and looking like the people would bring you belonging with the people you wanted to be with, or what felt like, and maybe you have a different perspective now than you did then, but what was at stake? Because it feels
Hmm.
like at 14 there's so much that feels like is at stake all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of it was friends and crushes at the time. So it was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, if I look a certain way, everybody's going to want to be with me. Everybody's going to want to be my friend. No one's going to hurt me. No one's going to
Mm-hmm.
leave me because I'm just going to have all these these things that make
Mm-hmm.
me so special and so strong. How could anyone ever hurt me? And I was definitely a perfectionist as a kid. So, like,
Mm-hmm.
I, I mean, still have those tendencies for sure. But like, I think that perfectionism came in too of, oh, like if I'm going to do this, I have to do it the right way and I have to
Mm-hmm.
do it all the way, or like, why do it
Mm-hmm.
at all?
Sure. Sure. Enter eating disorder, probably body dysmorphic stuff.
Oh, yeah.
What was that journey like from there? Obviously, your eating disorder, and I'm saying obviously because you've talked about it on the podcast before.
Mhm.
But yeah, what was that trajectory like? And at what point did you feel some shifts in your relationship with clothing?
Yeah. Yeah. I think really finding my style that took a long time. Like, like all through college, like it wasn't really set in stone and I really struggled with that. I think like early 20s, I finally started to
Mm-hmm.
get a sense of like, okay, this is who I am. Like, this is the style that feels good. I feel like this kind of like expresses who I am. Like, it allows me
Mm-hmm.
to be fun, it allows me to be creative. But sizes were still really, really hard for me. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I would, go shopping, like think I was a certain size. If I tried that on and it didn't fit, it was very, very emotional. It was very hard. I really beat up on myself. Going through my closet was hard because I do like clothing. I do shop a
Mm-hmm.
fair bit. So there would be times that I'm like, all right, I have too much stuff. I have to go through it and trying things on. Like if they didn't fit anymore, that would kind of elicit a similar response. So I would say it was really in my mid 20s, I finally started to be like, why am I doing this to myself?
Oh.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
I started to notice the link between like, I put this thing on, it's not comfortable, it doesn't fit my body. And then I just think about it more. Like, I just
Yeah.
think about how I'm uncomfortable. I'm so aware of my body. Like, it's terrible. Like, it leads to like a terrible day when I'm like wearing these things. And it just kind of like hit me. And I was like, why don't I just get things that actually fit me? That I like.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's another thing that's hard. It's always like, oh, well, if I have to go up a size or whatever it may be, I'm not gonna like these things. That's not true. Like I
Mm-hmm.
think being able to experiment and like find things that you like find influencers who maybe
Mm-hmm.
have a body that looks similar to yours, who are like, I'm out here wearing these things. I look
Mm-hmm.
cute, like it's fun, I'm expressing myself. That was
Yeah,
like really,
especially now. Like back in
yeah,
I'm like back in the day, or
yeah.
like back when you were early 20s, influencers weren't a thing, right?
That's been awesome the past couple of years, just
Mhm.
seeing mid-sized bodies and like plus size body, like
Mhm.
all types of bodies just out there
Mhm.
being like, you know what? I love fashion. I love expressing myself in this way. And it does not matter what my body looks like.
Mhm.
That's been so awesome to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you feel like that realization came for you as you were progressing through your recovery? Was it when you had kind of left some of the more eating disorder symptoms, behaviors behind, that you
Mhm.
were more just kind of like settling in and saying, wait, who am I? It
Oh,
feels
yeah.
so connected to the identity piece of you're no longer
Oh, yeah.
just the eating disorder and the urges and the impulses. Of course, everyone is so much more than that, but to have distance from
Mhm.
that to say, who actually am I and how do I express that feels like I don't know,
Yeah,
maybe I'll say a common like trajectory in some ways.
totally. Totally. And with my own recovery, I kind of addressed the food stuff on its own when I was, in high school, early college. But I never addressed the body image side of
Mm,
things. So that stayed with me for much, much longer until like my early mid 20s when I was finally like, okay, this isn't right. Like this isn't normal. I
mhm,
don't want to feel like this. I don't have to feel like this. So that with clothing, I think too, like that kind of came from that work that I did with my body and just kind of healing
yep.
that relationship, making that recognition of I don't need to make my body fit in something that's not comfortable. I don't need to do anything that doesn't feel good for me. This has to be something that feels good, that brings me joy, that doesn't make me feel shame.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I know one of the most common, I guess, insights that we'll share with folks is when you're having like a body image attack, just put something on that's comfortable. that
Mhm.
you're not going to be hyper vigilant about, that you're not going to be pushing and pulling and checking and moving and all of those things. So comfort is so important.
Yeah, and I think it's scary at first to do that, like this idea of putting something on that's comfortable, because that might mean getting something new,
Mm-hmm.
or getting something in a size that makes you feel anxious
Mm-hmm.
or shame or whatever it may be. So I know that's a really scary thing at first, but I think showing your
Mm-hmm.
body that compassion after you do it a couple times, it's like, oh, I'm actually not thinking about my body at all.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very freeing.
And I'm thinking about the meaning that so many of us attach to the numbers, the size.
Mm.
Can you talk about that a little bit, of even how to start to challenge that, or anything like reframes, getting curious about that, those types of meanings that can be made so easily?
I think the things that have been helpful in my own journey and that I've also seen be helpful for clients, obviously, like one of my go-tos, I think that can be helpful in moments that are harder, reminding yourself my body doesn't have to fit into the clothes have to fit my body.
Yes.
That was like a huge thing for me. And something that I've also noticed that I think is really cool, like going back to social media and influencers, I think that there are a lot of influencers out there that are really putting retailers on blast and being
Yeah.
like, these sizes make no sense. Like they're holding
Mhm.
up like, same cut, but like different fabrics and like same size, and they fit completely differently. So I think like
Yeah.
having these people out there that are really actually showing us this is made up, like it makes no sense, helping people kind of take some power back and being like, oh, it's not about the number because like the number's made
Mhm.
up.
By
Like,
some probably old dude,
dude,
old white
exactly.
dude,
Yeah,
sitting like
yeah.
on his
Like,
mountains of money,
yeah.
making us feel like crap. Yeah,
Absolutely. So I think that's been really cool to see. Like the actual, like visually, this means nothing.
absolutely nothing. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's all made up. That's such a great point. And
I've done
I'm,
it myself and I've told clients, if you're having a hard time with sizes or like you're struggling, pull up a video. Like
mhm.
that's been like really helpful in the moment. Just have somebody there being like, nope, like this isn't real. It's
Yeah.
not your fault. It's their fault.
And I'm thinking too about looking at numbers and sizes and all of that. Of, yeah, it's totally made up. And if you're feeling shame or like you're not doing things right, or you should be a different number, it feels important to get underneath that and go to feeling underneath it, of feeling out of control or feeling powerless or feeling not good enough or feeling like you'll never belong, or any of those beliefs that are really simmer underneath, that's making things flare up, that you should, quote unquote, should be different or appear different.
Yeah, absolutely. That idea, that belief that these are things that can determine belonging, determine worth. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
that is really important to do that work there and
Mm-hmm.
really kind of break those things apart. Your body doesn't determine your worth. It doesn't determine your
Mm-hmm.
belonging, even though sometimes we hold so tightly to that because it feels like something that we can control.
Yeah, I'm thinking of like 14-year-old little you with that,
Mhm.
like so much was at stake, and
Mhm.
wanting to fit in and, feel good enough and be cool, and
Yeah.
how that just like replays over and over again until you can start to do some of this deeper
Yeah.
work and see the reality of the world and the systems that are in place to make us feel not good enough.
That definitely started to fall away for me. Like this idea of I have to look a certain way, I have to be a certain size. I think once I really started to come into my own and be like, no, like I actually like who I am. Like
Mm.
I'm pretty cool. Like I have
Oh, I
all
love
these things
that.
to offer. That was really healing and kind of gave 14-year-old me that
Mm.
reassurance. You're good as you are. Like you don't need all these things for people to love you, for people to accept you. You already had it.
Mm. You had it all along.
Yeah. That was really powerful.
Love note to teenage Emily. I love
Yeah.
it. So then, what do you do with all the old clothes? Clothes that don't
Mm,
fit, that you're not comfortable
mhm.
in. Maybe you change your style, but you still love the certain thing. What's that process like?
Yeah, that's hard. Definitely have to do a lot of self-care leading up to that and after that, for sure. The thing that's coming to mind is like the Marie Kondo method. Did you watch that?
I never watched it, but of course I've heard like so much about it, but I never actually watched it because I'd probably get rid of my whole house if I
Yeah.
did because it's so freeing.
Yeah, but I really liked how she handled getting rid of clothing. Like I thought it was like in a really gentle way.
Mm,
Obviously, getting out your entire closet and putting it on your bed. I don't know if I would go that far. We can definitely break it up. Looking at something and being like, does this bring me joy? That was her big question. Does this item bring me joy? And if the answer is no, can I thank it for its service and maybe donate it to someone else who it might bring joy to? That I think has been, I don't know. There's just something about that that's like really beautiful and
mhm,
like peaceful and like compassionate.
mhm.
So I've done that. I've had clients who have done that and they've said it's been a positive experience. Obviously, I think breaking it down, you don't need to go through your entire closet in one day.
Right,
Um,
right. That
but
feels like a lot. Yeah.
really small chunks at a time. And I get your question of, well, what if I just like really don't feel ready to give this up? That's okay.
Mhm,
Sometimes we're not there yet. Let's just show ourselves some compassion. And I always recommend in those moments, can we get like a tote or a bin and maybe put that thing in the bin and put it
mhm.
somewhere out of sight? So it's not like
Yeah.
you're going into your closet and you're overwhelmed with all these things. You don't know how they fit you. If,
Mhm.
if that's a piece of clothing that falls into that category, but you don't want to give it up, let's just move it.
Totally get it out of the line of vision so that you're
Yeah.
not like struck with even just like triggers of, oh, I could do
Mhm.
something about this to get back
Mhm.
in, or whatever it is. It can be really helpful just to move it. I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking about the grief of like losing a body that you had in some season of your life. And in each season of life, we're going to have different bodies because that's just how things actually work. We're not
Mhm.
just static bodies all of the time. But yeah, the grief involved in that of maybe what the clothing meant or that you really loved the things or you loved how it looked. It's okay to grieve that. It's okay to grieve your clothing and what it meant to you.
Yeah, I think that's a really important part of that too. Feel your feels throughout that
Mhm.
process. We want to make sure that it doesn't go to a point like you were saying, like, oh, like now I have to change something. Like now I have to, get back into these things. But
Uh-huh.
absolutely feel your feels because it is hard and there is so much meaning, whether it's I like how this looked, like I miss my body, or even I wore this to like an event that was really special to me, like whatever it is, like there's so much meaning wrapped up in clothes and we do just sometimes have to grieve and that's okay.
So I'm curious, your Amazon cart, back to Prime Day. What's your process of going through like Prime Day is very they're smart, right? They're smart, huge overlord of the shopping industry, right? With the discounts, how are you going to go through and decide what you want, what you need, what's practical,
Mhm.
what's not, what's impulsive? Like, what's that like for you?
Oh, that's hard. That's a hard one.
Mm-hmm.
I think like going through the list and like you were saying, just asking yourself, do I need this? Realistically, have I survived this long without it? If it's not, like something householdy or whatever it may
Right.
be.
Yeah.
How often am I going to use this? That can be helpful to narrow down the list a little bit. But I think it's also okay to treat yourself sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I think we need to take that into consideration too. Like, not everything has to be this very black and white. This has a purpose. So, like, I'll get it. And if it doesn't, I don't need it.
Yeah.
So it's a fine line, but like really taking that into consideration too. So sometimes setting a boundary with yourself too. What are the things I need? I can get those. But then if there's some of these other things, like I don't want to deprive myself, maybe like let me set a budget or let me
Yeah.
get like one or two things. That can be helpful to kind of, weed out some of the things that you don't necessarily need, but you want,
Mm-hmm.
while not taking it to an extreme of, oh, I'm going to get everything. And then that's going to maybe feel uncomfortable financially or whatever might come up in that
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah. And it's so easy to be impulsive just online shopping now because you just press a button and it almost feels sometimes it feels like so disconnected that you're just doing it. And it's
Yeah,
something that I'm trying to pay more attention to.
same. it's hard because it is so easy and so instant. And I mean, it's that like dopamine hit, right?
Yeah.
Ooh, like this is fun and it's going to be at my house in 2 days. So
Uh-huh.
I think that's been helpful because I do love to buy things, giving myself that permission to be like, you can get something. Like, it's not like you can't get anything, but like, let's just like set some limits here. And if you don't
Yeah.
get it right now, it doesn't mean it's going anywhere. Save it for later.
That's so true, right? Just because it's Prime
Yeah.
Day, Prime Days, I guess is what, 2 days, and there's a
Yeah.
discount, doesn't mean that it's not going to be there or in a month. Like, sure,
Right.
you might not get the 10-20% off, which, yes, is helpful and
Yeah.
enticing.
Mhm.
And, if you really want it in a month or two, yeah,
And if Prime Day feels too overwhelming, because it is, like,
it is.
you also don't have to participate. Like, that's also okay. These things are still going to be there.
Yeah, you can divest from the
Yeah,
chaos and the frenzy of discounts, which just makes you buy more. It's
totally.
all part of the greater system.
I saw an influencer post yesterday. Like she was like, "Oh, like I'll share some things for tomorrow, but also just want to remind everybody that these things do go on sale a lot. So if you don't get it
Yeah,
tomorrow or you want to wait, you'll be okay." I was like,
absolutely.
"That's a helpful reminder."
That is a really helpful reframe.
Yeah.
So, take homes about shopping, clothes, being with that ever changing and evolving process of dressing yourself in a way that feels comfortable and expressive and authentic.
So I think some big reframes, doing some work around, like you were saying, like what are the things underneath this? Like what are the things that I want that I'm afraid of so that we can kind of get more in touch with our authentic selves is really important. Reminding yourself that the clothes need to fit you, that you don't need to fit the clothes, and that once you get over that initial stress, that initial fear, like that is so freeing to put something on that's comfortable and something that you like and recognize I feel good and I'm not really paying attention to my body. I think that that's really important. And playing around with style.
Mhm.
Find people, whether it's in your day-to-day life or like online, that you admire, that you look up to, and try it out. I think that it's something that can be really fun and really
Yeah.
expressive once we can get away from this idea I can only do this if I look a certain way.
Love those take homes.
Yeah.
The other take home from this episode is that we're going to design a t shirt of some sort. And it's going to say, in my reclaiming era. This all happened before we started recording. So
Yeah.
keep an eye out for our new t shirt that's going to be coming to the store
Very
soon.
excited. I will be purchasing that immediately. So,
Same. We'll
yeah.
work on it, everyone. We'll put a link up once it's good and
Yeah.
ready to go. Okay. Well, thank you, Emily. Love this
Yeah. Thank you.
conversation. I'm sure
Yeah.
we could talk more and more about it over time, but some really super helpful take homes. All right, everybody. We'll be back next week. And until then, take good care of yourself.
Bye, everyone.